Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jeweler's watch tells me it's 9:10 a.m. Well, it's actually 9:11 now. On this beautiful Wednesday, October 8th, year of our Lord 2025, this is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, broadcasting today from the United States of America. I could prove it because you just heard the truth. It's the place for the brave. Like the veterans we salute today, thanks to John Basiliga and his featured company this Wednesday, Basiliga Hospitality. Irving Lee King. He was from Wilkes-Barre. Wayne O'Neill, late of South Carolina. Lance Anderson, Carbondale. Ford Kilgallen, Carbondale. Thomas Mangieri, Roaring Brook Township. Edward Farrell, Wyoming. We lost them, but salute them. The United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our incredible founding fathers that the government is not, shall not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our salvation, our direction. Not any of these things, but is nothing more than a necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America. The country where, for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. Freedom could not be parceled out to groups. It could not be controlled by government or government officials because our great American Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press. If you read the local rags, well, yeah, they lie, but we know better. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because of them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. This Bob Cordaro Show, well, it'll always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so, we gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that, because of our commitment to common sense, we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all, even those who are Democrats, for the balance of this morning. Yep. Well, the little silly kerfuffle over our great congressman, our great freshman congressman, Rob Bresnahan. Now, I want to show you how insane the left is. This is emblematic. So, Paige Cognetti, our mayor, and she's a left-winger. She's all in on everything. All in on every left-wing lunatic idea ever created. So our Congressman, Rob Bresnahan, goes to an event supporting Scranton School Board members. Now, it's important to note, and most of you recognize this, that a school board position is a nonpartisan position. You can run on one party or the other, but you run on both. Normal people do. And so you're Republican and Democrat because you're supposed to represent all people and provide a better education as best you can from that position. So he attends this event on Sunday. And, I mean, okay, he's the United States congressman. Well, Paige, and she has this little goofball hit person, Wendy Mayapolsky. She's had a lot of names. Well, when I was county commissioner, she lied about me so blatantly, so ridiculously. And I stayed friendly with her, and I liked her. I still do. But she's insane. I mean, you could like an insane Anyway, her little, Paige's little hit person, she gets Chris Kelly to write a column. Now, this shows you how thick as thieves they are together. Chris Kelly pretends he's a reporter. Well, he also says he doesn't listen to my show, but he seems to know everything I say. That's another part. But if you don't listen to the show, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about, which is where he likes to be, because then he could spout his lies, his left-wing lunatic lies. Anyway, he writes a column about it to help the mayor, supposedly, because she's running for U.S. Congress against Rob Bresnahan. She's not running for mayor because she doesn't want anything to do with the people of Scranton. You are a stepping stone, and she's stepping on you to go to the next place, which is the U.S. Congress, where she could gratefully spout all her left-wing lunatic stuff, join the squad, and make a total fool out of the area. Fortunately, that will never happen. In any event, the mayor, the left-wing lunatic mayor, and her left-wing lunatic hench person, Wendy Mayapolsky, who I guess calls herself, I'm trying to remember. Again, she's had 7 or 8 names. I don't know her last name that she's using. Anyway, and I'm just not going to pull the column to see how she's referenced. But Wendy Mayapolsky takes umbrage with this on behalf of the mayor, that he goes to an event. And now it's the oddest thing that you to probe into the left-wing lunatic mind. And so Chris Kelly, this I actually need to quote because it's remarkable. Now, this is a supposed reporter. The Monday morning shift at the rumor mill suggested Bresnahan was invited by Scranton School Director Robert Casey, who was on yesterday. Now, I know for a fact he didn't invite him. I know that because I know who did. So, or told him about it. I don't even know if there was an invitation. So he's gleefully recounting a rumor as though it means anything. This is a supposed reporter that tells you where he is when it comes to facts, truth, and reality. He's nowhere. And so Casey comes on yesterday on the show. He comes down to the studio. And I mean, most people are not used to getting attacked in the paper. I'm used to it. I consider the source. Anyway, he comes and he explains what happened. And I was there, and I know Rob and Chelsea, and I had a conversation with them. Well, in Mayor Cognetti and Wendy Mayapolsky's eyes, I'm going to remember her name. I'm just blanking because I know her. I'm not trying to pretend like I don't know. It'll come to me. Anyway, that's one of the names I know her by. So anyway, they're outraged that he went to an event, which, by the way, she didn't go because she ran out on the school board when tough decisions had to be made and figured out how to get a job to get off the school board. Don't forget, Paige Cognetti was on the Scranton School Board. She was going to be the reformer on the Scranton School Board. Well, as soon as tough decisions had to be made because of fiscal issues, she ran. It would hurt her future political viability, apparently. So she runs. So there aren't fond memories of her on the Scranton School Board. So the congressman shows up to an event in his congressional district. And Paige Cognetti, again, they're left-wing lunatics. You got to remember this. Paige Cognetti, Wendy Mayapolsky, formerly of the Times, and she co-authors Chris Kelly's column. She tells him what to write, and he writes it on behalf of Paige, whatever helps Paige or whatever left-wing lunatic cause they're promoting that moment. And they're outraged that he goes to the event. They're outraged at people who talk to him. Do you see how sick these people are? I'm telling you, they're mentally ill. Now, it has only stirred up a hornet's nest against them because normal Democrats are like, who do these people think they are? What did Bob Casey say? Bob Casey said yesterday, he said, I'm a Democrat for 45 years. I've been loyal to the political party and its ideals and all of that. And these people, and again, they're not loyal to the party. They're left-wing lunatics. They're loyal to their agenda. So I think a lot of normal Democrats with that appearance, I know a lot of normal Democrats with that appearance and then that reaction from Cognetti, Mayapolsky, and Kelly, they know that they're on the outs with the left-wing lunacy. And they're going to act accordingly. Wendy Wilson, okay. That was sort of her first names. All right. That's way back, but I just forgot. In any event, these people are lunatics. Please be aware of this. If you're trying to look for sense, and I was telling Bob Casey this yesterday, and by the way, he is a loyal Democrat. He opposed every time I ran for office. He opposed me. I just like him. He's a good guy. And he's not a bull spitter, and he's not a liar like the three aforementioned lunatics. And he's not mentally ill. He's stable, normal, good guy. He just loyal to Democrat. I was not a Democrat, so he was against me. I can handle that. No big deal. But this is how these people are. Do you realize you're putting yourself, if you vote for Paige Cognetti, you're putting yourself under the spell and associating yourself with Chris Kelly and Wendy Wilson, Mayapolsky, whatever. She's actually, I call the mayor many names. Well, Wendy's got many more names than her. I mean, so you're putting yourself under the aegis of insane people, incompetent people who think nobody should ever talk to someone who ever voted Republican, who ever supported Trump. These are insane people. Please be aware of it. And that's why I'm up for Gene Baer for mayor. A normal Democrat. And by the way, the only reason I'm not up for not first of all, because I made a commitment to Gene. That's number one. That's the most important thing. And as I look at it, a Republican, maybe Mark Payne, who I'm really rooting for, running for council. A Republican is not going to win for mayor in Scranton, period. It's just not going to happen. So I want to support somebody who can win, who I made a commitment to, who I really like. And I think will do a great job because of experience and his mean and bearing and all that. But these are crazy people. So we've got a triumvirate here. Just remember who they are. And they're writing the Chris Kelly columns for him. She's an old Scranton Times liar, reporter, and she's writing the columns for Chris Kelly. She told She made some kind of post. She's created some blue insanity thing that she does. Not only did Chris Kelly give her a picture that had been provided to Kelly by Bob Casey, she printed it and then mocked him because during the picture he was being treated for cancer. She mocked his appearance. Wendy Mayapolsky Wilson and the mayor, they mocked his appearance. This is how insane they are. And if you oppose them, they will try to kill you. They're sick. They're mentally ill. And those three together need to be opposed by normal Democrats. And everybody else, obviously. They're bad for the area. They're horrible at their jobs. Wendy Mayapolsky helped Matt Cartwright lose his election for Congress. He had 12 terms in Congress until she showed up. Now he's out. So there it is. Normal Democrats versus three lunatics. It's that stark. We'll take a break and be back. Our veterans this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our friend John Basiliga and all of his great companies. But today we feature, as the weekend is nigh, Basiliga Hospitality. That includes a Terra 519. Reader's Choice winner of Best Fine Dining, Best New Local Restaurant, Best Wine Selection. I'll affirm all of that. The Stegmeyer Mansion. the best classic atmosphere anywhere. And I don't mean in Northeast Pennsylvania. Then you got Old Brook Inn. Winner, Best Outdoor Dining. Best place to have a first date, and I would argue a fifth date. Far Street Tavern. Best bar food, best neighborhood bar. Queen City Tavern, best bar. Scranton Art House, best movie theater. Basiliga Hospitality, you can't go wrong. And their universal gift certificates, good for all of them. Irving King, he was 77. He was at River Street Manor, Wilkes-Barre, when he passed away on the 16th of September. Born in Sweet Valley, graduated from Lake Lehman High School. He served his country with honor in both the United States Army and the United States Navy. Wow. Tragically preceded in death by his grandson, Gabe. Surviving are his sons, Sean and Bob, and many other family members. Irving King. Wayne O'Neill. We lost him September 21st. He was living in Charleston, South Carolina. He was a veteran of the U.S. Air Force, serving for 21 years. Survived by his daughter and other family members. Wayne O'Neill. Lance Anderson. Carbondale. He was just 65 when we lost him September 22nd. Full military honors for his funeral at the Carmine and Louis Parise Funeral Home. Lance Anderson. Ford Kilgallen III. He was but 56 when we lost him September 30th. He was from Carbondale. Born in Scranton, a U.S. Navy veteran and a career corrections officer. He served by a daughter, 3 grandchildren, and many other family members. Ford Kilgallen. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from our man, the meteorologist Joe Snedeker, and Channel 16. Today, morning, clouds and rain, then clearing, breezy, and cooler. It'll be about 65. It's only 56 outside the studios at the moment. Tonight, clear and cold down to 39. Thursday, sunny and cool, 58. Friday, sunny and cool, 63. So, it's fall. And I was thinking about this particularly Sunday, Monday. Yesterday was a pretty nice day, too. But I'm thinking about it, and I'm saying, hey, this is, and I heard Snedeker say it. That dawned on me. It's going to be about 7 months before we have hot weather again. You know, temperatures breaking the 80s. Just something to think about. Well, this is unless you go to Florida or wherever. Fascinating, though. In any event, let's go to our man, Angelo Lutz from Madisonville. Angelo, how are you?
Hey, what's up, buddy? I'm doing pretty good. I got a story
So guess what now, before you tell your story, I don't get to look at Facebook often, and I made the mistake. It's not a mistake, but I made the calculation that I can handle 5,000 friends, which I guess is your max. And so I just can't keep up with stuff. But I saw you performing on Facebook, you playing the guitar and singing. It was fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, man. Thanks.
Fabulous.
Well, Frank Sinatra paid me a lot of money not to sing. I couldn't sing for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Oh man, do I got a story to tell you?
Fire away.
And okay, well, a couple of weeks ago they honored Jimmy Connors, the ex-mayor, and I liked him. I knew him.
Good guy.
And they had music and everything, right? So the mayor of Scranton was there and an entourage, and I couldn't hear what they were saying from where I was sitting. So I just, moseyed on down and tried to get a little closer and everything, just so I could hear them. I don't know why I couldn't hear them. I guess they should have turned the mic up a little bit. That would have made sense, But anyway, I'm standing there talking to a buddy of mine. So this, they're doing their thing about Jimmy, and I liked him, and I want to honor him by going. So I'm standing there talking to Bob, and this lady comes over to me. She says, why do you sound so familiar? I said, I have no idea. You even look familiar. So, I said to her, well, did you see my picture in the post office? I don't know. Like, where did you see me? You know what I mean? She goes, oh, I know how I know you. I said, well, how do you know me? I thought it was an old girlfriend that I couldn't remember, But anyway, yeah. So anyway, she goes, I heard you on the Bob Cordaro show. You got to be that guy from Mescapec or Mallory Lodge, I forget. And Bob goes, he's from Madisonville, lady, right? Oh, okay. And then you know what she says? Now, she heard me. She says this to me. I heard you on Bob Cordaro's show. Then the next sentence, she says, I don't listen to Bob Cordaro's show.
Just like Chris Kelly. Yeah, it's like all of them. I know.
Like what? Like I busted out laughing. I had a turn. I walked away. I said, Bob, I got to go sit down. I'm thinking, what kind of, you say one thing and then, if you heard me on the radio, you listened to his show. Mm-hmm. I had to tell you this, man. I had to tell you.
That's hilarious. Well,
yeah, isn't that something?
Chris Kelly says, I've never listened to the show, but apparently he knows everything I say. But, I mean, I read his column. I have to know what the lunatics are thinking because I'm thinking at some point they might have a good argument about something. So I've got to be open to whatever they're saying and at least peruse it. So yeah, it's crazy. They're crazy people. They're crazy people.
A mutual friend of ours told me you said to say hello, and
yes,
I'm going to mention this. I shouldn't, but I'm going to. They had a mass for my wife. It was a daily mass in honor of my wife.
Nice.
Yeah, and so my priest.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, don't go nowhere.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah, Father Muldowney, God bless him, boy. There hasn't been a bad homily since he came there,
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes some priests, God bless them, I'm thinking, could I go up? No, let me finish
well, you remember Steve Martin's old joke was, some people have a way with words and other people, not have way.
Well, I got a problem, man. I could talk to anybody, and I just, I could talk. There's no doubt about it. But so after the mass, I waited, and he told me, and I'll tell you, he's a great man. Mm-hmm. He's involved with the Pennsylvania State Police, and he's the chaplain and stuff.
Yeah, scholar of the church. Yep.
Yeah, oh yeah. You know what? I had to call in and tell you about that. It was a concert benefit for our buddy. I might not agreed with him a lot of times, but I did like him. He was a friend of mine. God bless him. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, amen.
But I just wanted to.
Thank you,
I better go now because I'll talk for about 9 hours, and then nobody will be able to.
Angelo, always a pleasure, and people love hearing you on the show. So thank you, my friend.
LTS, brother.
All right,
LTS.
Man. If they
Thank
tell
you.
you they never heard Angelo on the show, they're making it up. We got to go. We're going to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. More calls on the other side. Jerry Lee Lewis and his signature song, Murph says. This date, 1957. He recorded this hit, Great Balls of Fire, at Sam Phillips Sun Records, Memphis, Tennessee. This date, October 8th, 1957. Bob Cordaro back with you. Yeah, a bunch of you texting, and somebody said, Kelly insists he doesn't follow my fake Facebook post, and I don't know who this is. Yet he had dozens of copies of posts I made over the years. I guess to use against me should I ever be a threat to the incumbent. He said readers sent them in. It sounds familiar. I know. All right, what did I tell you about left-wing lunatics? Now, this is the triumvirate of Mayor Cognetti, Wendy Wilson Mayapolsky, or is it Mayapolsky Wilson, and Chris Kelly. They're left-wing lunatics, and what's true about them? Because They are devoid of fact, truth, and reality and living someplace else. They have to lie and they have to be hypocrites. That's so, there it is. Somebody else, and this is the most appropriate text. I don't understand what the controversy is. Republicans aren't allowed to attend public meetings? Yeah, public event. I'm telling you, they're crazy. Bob, I live in Scranton. I've called the mayor's office many times over a problem house in my neighborhood. The mayor is never in the office. I ask for a return call and never get a call back from her, only her staff members. I believe they look and see how you vote before they call back. Oh, she is a left-wing partisan. If you don't go left-wing, forget it. The list there continues. I even had one staff member Google my house and the problem house while on the phone with me. Of course, I'm a registered Republican. This issue has been ongoing for many years. Yeah, I know. Drive on my street in Scranton. You will think you're in Fallujah after the Air Force strafed. Yep. Well, my Picardo Jewelers watch tells me we're approaching 10 o'clock even, which means it's Bloomberg Money Minute. But we'll come back. I promise. This date, 1966, Question Mark and the Mysterians. They moved up to number 3 with their hit, 96 Tears. And, of course, 1956. And if you're a baseball fan, you know that voice. A little thinner, a little younger. 1956, Don Larson pitching the perfect game. And the call by Vin Scully, who then followed the Brooklyn Dodgers out to Los Angeles later in the decade. Bob Cordaro back with you on WILK. There was something I was going to bring up, and I don't. One of you texted, "Hey, Bob, Butch from Mountaintop. The morning show had a self-proclaimed professional claimed the COVID vaccine has been thoroughly tested and completely safe. He also claimed it was as safe as the flu vaccine, which is absolutely ridiculous. The flu vaccine has been thoroughly tested for decades. COVID vaccines have been tested barely 5 years, so to claim it's been thoroughly tested is just gaslighting at this point, ALTS." The interesting thing about that, now you know this, the morning show is not going to have anybody on who has questions about a vaccine. Vaccines is part of the small g gods that they worship. Even though they were against it because it was Trump's Operation Warp Speed, which brought it to the fore. Again, you have to be a liar and a hypocrite, right? To be a lefty. So, now, when you say testing, it's an interesting term. The COVID vaccine was basically tested on us. Now, any mass vaccine, by the way, I would have never gotten it. I was still under Bureau of Prisons control and had to, or I would not have gotten it. Any vaccine, any mass vaccine, any mass vaccination, any mass medication is going to have adverse effects among many people. So the only thing we know is that it did not prevent people from getting COVID. It did not prevent anyone from spreading COVID. So I would sort of call that a failure as a vaccine. In fact, it proves it's not a vaccine. But with its advent, we were able to open the country up again. So let's not completely be negative on it. But here, the thing that bothers me so much about the COVID vaccine is the lies. That there were no adverse effects, covering up the adverse effects from the VAERS reporting system. That's what is beyond disturbing. We had a government bureaucracy that lied. What a surprise. All right. Donald from Pittston. Hi, Donald. We have about a minute, my man. Fire.
Yeah, you're right, though. It's a political playbook. What they're doing to you and everybody when they can't win, like they did to Stephen Miller recently. AOC said he's 4'10", and they disparaged him. He's really married
clip.
with three. He's a very professional, pretty wife, married with 3 kids. And he's the last guy on the planet you want to pick a political fight with. He's like the political Bruce Lee.
He's brilliant.
I mean, that guy. You talk about the stupidity is not a crime. He's a MAGA boss. He's got strings everywhere, and he's like a heavyweight. A Mike Tyson, Ernie Shavers heavyweight, lights out. This last guy I'd want to debate.
AOC doesn't. She's so dumb, and I say this lovingly.
Right.
She's so
Stupidity.
dumb. She doesn't know how dumb she is.
Exactly. Stupidity. It reminds me of The Irishman when crazy Joe Gallo went to Joe Pesci and said that Pitt or something. And they're all saying he's a boss. What do you want to hear about? Not that she's going to get hurt, but the last guy to pick a fight with politically,
Yeah,
How stupid can these people be? Shaming a man. All he said because she can't respond, they have nothing. I mentioned it to you. His speech went viral all over the conservative websites at the Charlie Kirk Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
It was good.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing. So they disparage you about your past, and then they're bringing up a guy with cancer. They're shaming him. So let's talk about issues that you have nothing. And they have nothing.
Yep.
All they know how to do is operate on a child, and change their gender. They got nothing. That's their agenda. Open borders. No, nobody wants their agenda. Nobody wants their anti-Semitism.
So they've got
They have
to lie
absolutely
and distract.
nothing.
They've got to lie and distract. Yep.
Exactly. So they tell you now it's personal stuff. All right. Thanks, Bob.
All right, man.
For
Thank
taking
you.
my call.
Always a pleasure, Donald. Thank you. I look at my Picardo Jewelers watch, and I want to remind you. I want to talk about a watch store. And by the way, it's big enough that they've got an amazing jewelry selection as well. But I've got a Picardo Jewelers watch on, and that's what tells my time for me. But they've got Raymond Weil, Breitling, Oris, Longines, Michelle, Shinola, Luminox, Swiss Army, Seiko, Tory Burch, Victorinox, Bulova, and more. And according to my Picardo Jewelers watch, it's 10:01 and change, which means it's time to go to the news. We'll be back, and we're going to play a little ditty, as is my wont. And then I've got an old friend of mine from prison. He's written a book, Chris Fanazzi. And his story is incredible. We'll try to get as much of it in as we can. But it's called Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. Chris Fanazzo. I'm looking forward to it. I hadn't talked to him in a number of years. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 10:10 a.m. here in the great Northeast this beautiful Wednesday, October 8, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like the veterans we lost this year, but salute today, thanks to John. Lance Anderson, Carbondale, Wayne O'Neill, Leda, Charleston, South Carolina, Irving King, Sweet Valley, Ford Kilgallen, Carbondale, Thomas Joseph Mangieri, Roaring Brook Township, and Edward Farrell, Wyoming. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, otherwise known as the Bob Cordaro Show. Hey, Mother Teresa for today. Let's get in here. By the way, so we played What a Moron. And she could be nice in certain ways. But AOC arguing or having a policy discussion with Stephen Miller, it's so senseless to really have an argument. She caught herself realizing where she was headed with her diatribe on him and then tried to correct it and sounded even dumber. Wow. That's a thought leader in the Democrat Party. This is how low they've sunk. And then we've got our thought leaders here. Our lack of thought leaders. And again, when I think of something silly, I love to think of something great and beautiful, and that's Mother Teresa, St. Teresa, for October 8th. She says, "You and I are called to do very humble work. There are many people who can do big things, but there are very few people who will do the small things." And did she ever? I say it often in the show, doing something ordinary so often and so well that it becomes extraordinary. And that's our Mother Teresa, our St. Teresa. Sean from Larksville. He gives me an LTS. Love the show. He says, "Hey, Bobby, got to play pickleball for the first time 2 weeks ago. What a blast it was. And I look forward to playing more. So the Scranton Mayor's greatest accomplishment may be the pickleball courts. 5 years, we got a pickleball court. I know." Continues, "I know you're always looking for Democrat accomplishment. Well, there it is. Bid rigging on the pools. No pool at Naog. but we got a pickleball court." HVAC dude says, "Who's making these musical selections? It's Murph. Straight fire dope, bro." Well, that sounds like prison talk. Thanks, HVAC dude. And then he comes in and says, "Some of the most interesting and intelligent individuals I've met were in prison. State, not Fed." Well, we're going to talk to a Fed prisoner shortly. Looking forward to the upcoming segment. Well, Chris Finazzo. He was charged with a crime that most people don't know exists. In this unfiltered, sobering account, he recounts his journey from the pinnacle of his career in the fashion industry to documenting the stories of his fellow inmates at the largest federal prison in the United States, Fort Dix, where I was with Chris. This book provides remarkable insight into the choices, challenges, emotions, and mindsets of the people working and incarcerated within the federal criminal justice system, offering a thoughtful and engaging exploration of love and resilience. It's called Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. And it's outstanding. I'm going to say this before I put Chris on. What he does, and I could have him explain as well, but a town driver is basically a prisoner that they could trust to just sort of stay within the lines, who drives people generally being released, but also people going to medical appointments and other stuff, in a van and takes them. And Chris weaves his story in this book, his prison story, with those of the many people that he drove, particularly home. And I'm telling you, it's outstanding. I have a hard time finishing a book anymore, even though I used to read 2 and 3 a week in prison. But this book captivated me, and I read it through and through. And without further ado, we bring on my old friend Chris Finazzo to talk about his book. Chris, welcome to the Bob Cordaro Show. How are you, man?
Bob, thanks for having me. I'm flattered that you invited me on the show. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you or spoken to you in a very long time.
I know it, man. And we used to go to Mass together.
Absolutely.
At Fort Dix. And I remember, Chris, reading your case. And I'm saying, I'm not, strictly speaking, a criminal lawyer. I can't figure out what you did.
A lot of people can't figure out what I did, and that's why I kept fighting with the government. And I had great attorneys, Alan Lewis, who followed this case through. And my ending is a very happy ending, but it was a crazy time at Fort Dix. I mean, I would sit there and wonder, what the heck am I doing here? And I think we all wondered what we were doing here. People read my case and never understood it. And one of the things, I used to work for the warden, Hollingsworth at the time, and I would clean his office. And he told me one day, sit down. I thought I was in trouble. And he said, what are you doing here? I read your case. I don't know what you did. I told him I conspired to violate the Travel Act. And
which begs the question, what the hell is that? Yeah.
Travel Act. Well, the Travel Act was put in place by President Kennedy in 1963, so his brother Bobby Kennedy could go after organized crime. Now, I'm not a retail mafia figure by any means. I was a second in charge at Aeropostale. I worked for a private equity company on the West Coast to build retail brands, and that's what I did. So when I heard that when I was arrested in front of my family, coming home from a business trip in California, in front of my family with 7 FBI agents and all kinds of crazy machine guns, et cetera, I realized that the Travel Act was a serious situation, but nobody ever understood what the Travel Act was.
Now, the essence of the crime, as the book read, and I got to tell you, I didn't get it from your paperwork. You made it clear in the book called Reflections of a Town Driver, is that you had a business deal with a vendor. You got into real estate investing with a vendor.
Correct.
Who you were not exclusively in charge of buying from.
No. And the question remains, why that happened when I was let go at Aeropostale, and this has been going on since 2006. And then I took a job with another private equity company on the West Coast that ran a company called Anchor Blue, and I was out there for 3 years and really started to turn that business around. I was flying back and forth from the West Coast and East Coast every week. I'd come home, same flight, JetBlue Airlines, same seat, same everyone, knew all of the people on the plane, and came home, was downstairs on a business call, finished that, and my daughter said, Dad, the FBI is here, and I was arrested on June 10th of 2010 for conspiring to violate the Travel Act.
And then you go to trial. The jury doesn't really understand what the crime is, but they figure you're there. Oh, he must be guilty.
Well, I'm a middle-aged, successful, no one ever given me anything, a self-made, successful guy sitting in front of there, and the U.S. attorneys are talking about violating the Travel Act, and they're talking about mail wire fraud, which, the Travel Act is a blanket that they throw over you. So if you're a little kid and somebody throws a blanket on top of you, you try to get out of it, and you can't get out of it because you're trapped. And that's what I was. I was trapped in a situation where I never understood the crime. I never understood why it was happening. I didn't understand everything, but I fought my way tooth and nail. I went to trial in front of a jury of my peers, but nobody understood what the Travel Act does. Even some of the attorneys had a hard time understanding how this fit into a a RICO type crime under the Travel Act.
Myself among them, by the way.
Right. I mean, it's just a crazy situation, you know. I always felt that I was not fairly tried, that I was convicted of something that was not a crime that I didn't do. And I'm certainly a big enough guy that if I did a crime like they said I did, I would take it like a man and probably have taken a plea deal. But since I was not guilty, I decided to go through the gamut, and I got 8 years for a crime that really was not a crime.
Now, Chris, and Chris Finazzo is our guest. His book is Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. The good news on this, but sad news, is that the upper courts, including the Supreme Court, said this isn't a crime long after you served your sentence.
Well, like I said, I have a terrific, caring attorney. You know, attorneys sometimes get a really bad rap, especially when you're in prison and talking about how badly your attorneys, did for you, or how badly it turned out for you. And I was very successful. I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful wife that has stuck by me. But the one thing I realized was that my attorney followed this case long after it happened. So there was a similar case to mine, which involved the right to control function under the Travel Act. Again, very complicated situation. I was at Disneyland with my grandchildren and my wife and my daughter and son-in-law, and I came off a ride, the Snow White ride, which was if you ever go to Disneyland, you think the Snow White ride should be a lot of fun and easy. It's a horrible ride. You come off feeling sick and nauseous after you go on this little Disney Snow White ride.
Well, I'm sickened by much of what Disney does, but that's a separate issue.
Well, so I come off the ride, and there's a text message from Alan Lewis. He says, "Chris, I've got some good news for you." And the good news was that after all these years, the Supreme Court, headed by Justice Thomas, put out an opinion that the right to control is not a crime. And after serving 5.5 years, I was able to get out 15 months early, thanks to our wonderful president, Donald Trump, who was able to get me out on the First Step Act 15 months earlier. I was never able to get any of the money that was taken away from me, but that was okay. I'll make that back. I'm not crying over that. But he told me in his office that you have a very good chance of your sentences, the sentences 2 through 16, which is the mail wire fraud function or charges, would be vacated. And I just signed paperwork a couple of months ago to vacate my entire sentence from the government. So I spent 5.5 years in prison as a town driver, which was a great job. But I lost a lot of my time. I missed my grandchildren being born. I missed being with my wife and family. But it was really a complete injustice to put me through that. And as I was writing the book, it was never going to be about me and the system and how terrible the system is. So sometimes the U.S. criminal justice system is a system that promises justice, but in my case, it didn't deliver that justice. You know, I was wrongly charged with something should not have been a crime. And again, if it wasn't for my attorney following through, I wouldn't be on the phone with you. I probably wouldn't have a book, and I probably wouldn't have my sentence vacated. But it was a long, tedious process that's been going on for 15 years. Yeah. It's been a crazy process.
Chris Finazzo is our guest. His book, Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. I served some time with Chris. I was in 11 prisons, and one of the ones I was in was Fort Dix with Chris. Chris, I am so impressed with this book because a lot of people want to know about prison experiences. A lot of my audience asks, tell us stories and on the air and so forth, which I don't hesitate if they come to mind. But being the town driver, you took so many people home, and they wanted to open up to you And by the way, just so you guys know, this is who Chris is. People, you can perceive his wisdom and experience, and I myself got that out of him when we met and when we would be in church and hanging around. But they wanted to impart upon you what was going on, and you absorbed their stories and made it part of yours, which I think makes this book unique. Tell us about some of the people you took home and maybe some of the commonalities among the people who were being released from prison.
Well, the first thing is that in prison, as you know, Bob, everybody's treated the same. Whether you're black, white, rich or poor, doesn't make a difference. You're all in the same situation. So I wake up one morning, and I'm surrounded by 400 men on a cot in a dorm-style dormitory where we're all sleeping together, and it's a little bit crazy. But my town driver stories was this. In order to pass the time when I came back from work, after I was appointed as a town driver, I got a cell phone, I got keys to a van, I'd go out every day, I'd bring people to halfway houses, Newark Airport, Philly Airport. And what I decided to do one day was to ask somebody, one of the inmates that I was driving from either the east or west side or the camp, what they did. Like, what did you get? What are you here for? And they would say to me, what are you here for? And I said, I violated the Travel Act, and the conversation would come to a halt because nobody knew what that was. But, I'll give you for instance, one of the first guys that I drove home, his name was Benji. And Benji was an older black gentleman who got caught up in the drug trade back in the early days when the drug trade was very popular in East Harlem and in New York City. And the laws were so strict that if you got caught with a little bit of drugs in your possession, you've got a long-term sentence, not like it is right now. And Benji came out, and I realized that life in prison sometimes is better than life outside of prison.
For these guys.
So Benji is in his late 60s, early 70s. I could relate to him. We were about the same age. He came in. He had one black garbage bag. After spending 30 years in prison, he came home with one black garbage bag. And that black garbage bag had really nothing in it, a couple of pairs of socks, a pair of shoes, etc. Put it in the back of the car and drove him to Trenton train station, where the government gives you $16.50 to take the train from Trenton to New York City. Benji was deathly afraid. He was crying in the car because he said he's leaving a life that he loves in prison, which is hard to believe, and going to a place which was a shelter, and he had no family. His wife, his mother, his father, his sisters have all passed on, and he has no friends. And he hasn't been in Harlem or he hasn't been in Manhattan for 30-plus years. So when I dropped Benji off, he was afraid to get out of the car. His legs were weak, and he was tired, and he had an emotional breakdown in the car. And here's a grown man, after 30 years of leaving prison, having an emotional breakdown. And I had to leave Benji there on the curb, and I drove away. And as I drove away, I said to myself, wow, this is terrible. How could life in prison, especially at Fort Dix, be better than your life outside of Fort Dix? So I came home that night, and I started to write down in a journal every conversation that I've had with prisoners that I took home.
Fascinating.
And it just is it's a sad state of affairs. I've had guys who I've driven home that were pedophiles, guys that were murderers, guys that were embezzlers. I drove every type of person home. I have over 150 stories that I've written down. Some make you laugh, and some are happy, and some are sad. Like Benji is a sad story.
Chris Finazzo's our guest. He was a fellow inmate with me for a time at Fort Dix until I was requested to go someplace else. His book is called Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. Chris, can you hang with us for a little bit through a commercial break?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bob.
I want to come and continue this discussion. The book is great. I'm telling you, it's one of the most well-rounded prison books I've ever seen, and having been through 11 prisons, over 8.5 years. I know a little bit about it. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got a Veterans Tribute, the weather, and then back with Chris Finazzo, my old prison buddy, and talking about his book, Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our man, John Basiliga. Well, it's Wednesday, so we're going to feature one of his great companies, Basiliga Hospitality. The two fine dining restaurants, quality and atmosphere beyond any I've been to, and equal to any I've been to around the world. A Terra 519. Reader's Choice winner, Best Fine Dining, Best New Local Restaurant, and Best Wine Selection. Then in Wilkes-Barre, the Stegmeyer Mansion. It's like traveling to Newport, and in the middle of a mansion tour, they say, have a meal, and it'll be top shelf. Live like they did in all their glory. Sergei's the nightclub, also downtown Scranton. Winner, best nightclub, best live music venue. They'll be open tomorrow night through Sunday. Far Street Tavern, best bar food, best neighborhood bar. Queen City Tavern, best bar winner. Scranton Art House, best movie theater. The Old Brook Inn, best outdoor dining, best place to have a first date. Or a second, or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth. Amazing. Basiliga Hospitality. Thomas Mangieri. We lost him September 27th this year. His family says, with great sadness and profound gratitude for a life well lived. He was from Roaring Brook Township. He passed at age 82. Born in Scranton, he attended Scranton Public Schools, working as a baker from a young age. He proudly served us in the U.S. Navy, 1960 to 1964. He was stationed all across the North Atlantic, and honorably discharged as an airman. He then moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut, where he met his beloved wife, Nancy, before returning with his young family to the Scranton area. Tom was a truck driver for 35 years with Roadway Express, retiring in 2007. He was a proud member of the great Teamsters Local 229, and he served as a trustee in that great organization. Tom was also a longstanding member of the St. Eulalia Parish in Roaring Brook Township. The life of every party, he had a commanding presence. In addition to his wife, Nancy, with whom he was married for 57 years, he's survived by a daughter, a son, a grandson, and many other family members, including innumerable and deeply valued friends. Thomas Mangieri, our great veteran this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, morning clouds and rain, then clearing, breezy, and cooler, 65, 57 outside the studios right now. Tonight, clear and cold, low 39. Thursday, sunny and cool, 58. Friday, sunny and cool, 63. So we're talking with my old prison friend, Chris Finazzo. And he was a big deal in the fashion industry. Most of you would remember Aeropostale. He had started with Macy's. And these private equity companies that wanted to buy various fashion stores would turn to Chris and say, make this happen or turn this around. And at the height of his career, out of nowhere, he gets arrested and goes to trial, sentenced to 8 years for a crime which was later invalidated by the U.S. Supreme Court. Like, well, what is this? But during his experiences, not only, by the way, I say this often about prison, you're meeting people in the worst possible circumstances, almost always, that they've had in their life. And their character's revealed. And I could say clearly about Chris, he's one of the guys that I just said, he was, put upon and tortured by all of this. But he revealed a great, strong character. And when I heard he had a book coming out, he's just one of those guys you'd always want to hang around with before, during, and after. And he's with us to talk about his book called Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. Chris, so tell us a couple more of the stories, maybe not the ones you tell in the book, because we'll read the book for that.
Right.
That really strike you as wow, and maybe gave you a head scratcher on the way home.
Well, there's one story that I probably never put in the book, but I'll tell you guys on the radio today, is that there were two town drivers at the time, me and my counterpart, and we were split up one day. I went to Newark Airport, and the other driver went to Philly bus station. And the guy that he was taking to the Philly bus station was a very large man. He was probably 5'7", at least 350 pounds. And they drove him to Philly bus station. On my way back from the Newark Airport, I got a call from the CO, and the CO said to me, Finazzo, I need you to go to the bus station and pick up the person that the other driver dropped off this morning. And I asked why. And he said, you're not to ask why, you're just to do.
Yeah.
So I was rerouted to the Philly bus station, and there was this large man surrounded by policemen, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with him or what happened. Either the prison had made a mistake and released him too early, or something went wrong with his paperwork and he couldn't get on the bus. I'm not really sure what happened, but I can tell you that it was very secretive, and the reason why they sent me to the prison to pick him up is because I would never tell anybody that I picked up another prisoner that they either let out too early or had some issues with him going. I later find out that he was a pedophile, that he was probably not able to be released when he was released, and the federal system made a mistake. And that is a little crazy when you make a mistake and you drive a person to a bus station or a train station and they shouldn't be released. That's a problem with the prison.
Well, Chris Finazzo, I would say this: why didn't they make a mistake with us instead of a pedophile?
I don't know, Bob. I don't know. You know, what I remember about Fort Dix with you is that you were always fun. You always were laughing. You always had a debate, and I'm so happy that you have this wonderful radio show because all of your qualities come out on the radio. When I'm listening to you now talk, it's like a flashback to Fort Dix and how exceptional you are when it comes to entertaining people into talking. But there's a lot of times in when I'm driving that the stories are hard to believe. Like, I can't believe the stories, and I changed everybody's name in the book so that they wouldn't realize it. But there's so many stories about people taking drugs because they're working too hard, because they're injured. There was a young man that I took home who was in the military and had a problem. He had gotten hurt and injured in the military and started to take drugs, Oxycontin and other drugs for painkillers because his knees and his back were hurting, and he didn't want to leave the military, and found himself selling drugs on a military base, okay, so that he could take drugs so he could relieve his pain. And the reason why he didn't tell the military is because he loved the military and always wanted to be there. So sad truth about people taking drugs and getting addicted to painkillers. There's so much of that. I drove hundreds and hundreds.
And by the way, Chris, I guess that's maybe the definition of irony, that he serves his sentence on a military base.
Yeah, I mean, he was on the east side of Fort Dix, and it's really it's really criminal that he wasn't able to tell anybody because he didn't want to lose his job in the military. But then he winds up ending up in a military base, but and Fort Dix in a prison. It doesn't make any sense.
And one of the things Chris Finazzo points out in his book that is true, the Fort Dix complex, one of the largest it is the largest federal prison complex in the country, approx 21 to 2,500 on what they call the east side, and 21 to 2,500 on the west side, and up to 400 plus in the camp. Massive prison complex on the site of a joint Air Force, Navy, Air Force, and Army base in Fort Dix. Quite a place.
It was a special, crazy place. You know, my favorite story that is in the book, and this has happened more than once in my driving. I've driven home thousands of guys or to different locations, whether it's a halfway house or to an airport, etc. One of my favorite stories is that there's a young man named Luis, and Luis was on the west side, and I picked him up, and he was very well dressed. You know, we had shorts, gray T-shirts or brown T-shirts, and that's what we kind of lived in. But he was well dressed, had new jeans on, had a Nike hoodie, and I was driving him to Philadelphia Airport. He was very nervous in the car, and I asked him a question. Luis, what did you do? He said, well, he was part of a big drug ring in Puerto Rico that involved law enforcement, gangs, et cetera. They had drugs and guns that they were running through Puerto Rico, and there was 147 people on his indictment list, and that he took a plea deal, which meant that he must have ratted out a lot of the people that went to prison, and he got a little bit of a leniency with giving the government information. Well, to make a long story short, I dropped Luis off. Luis tells me that he's afraid to get out of the car because if he goes home to Puerto Rico, he will be killed. He's going to be murdered or something will happen to him badly, and he doesn't want to go back to Puerto Rico. But he's got a ticket to Puerto Rico. One of the problems with the federal government is that wherever you came from, you have to go back to. So he had to go back to Ponce, Puerto Rico, which is a high crime rate, notoriously gang-related, and he went there. And again, remember, this is years ago. So Luis gets out of the car. I wish him well. I could see that he's hesitant to leave. And it's the day before Thanksgiving. And you know how great Thanksgiving, Bob, was at Fort Dix. Yeah. We ate at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we got a piece of turkey and some table talk pies is in my book. It's about people trading.
Well, when I worked in the kitchen, when they forced me to work in the kitchen, I made sure that it was good. It's just that I was eating it at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we had Thanksgiving dinner at 9:30 in the morning. But I get a call that night from the office station, and the CEO says, "Finazzo, the guy Luis that you dropped off at the airport." We know that you dropped him off because there's a film of you dropping him off. We went back and looked at the film through the airport security, and Luis never got on the plane to Puerto Rico. So I already knew that the reason why he didn't get on the plane to Puerto Rico was because Luis had other ideas because he was afraid to go home. I didn't know what he was going to do, but he was definitely afraid to go home. The next day on Thanksgiving in the afternoon, I get a call to come into the CO's office and said that Luis was picked up by the U.S. Marshals on a plane going to Miami. And it's a sad case because here's a young man he committed a crime. Yes, he probably, ratted out a bunch of people, but Luis had other ideas about what he wanted to do, but he couldn't tell anybody. There was nobody there to help him because he was afraid he was going to get murdered or something else in Puerto Rico when he went back.
Well, and Chris, the funny thing about that is he avoided getting murdered in prison for being a rat, but he was afraid to go back to Ponce.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Amazing.
It's very, very sad stories, very sad. There's another guy who is a big guy, and I said to him, "What do I call you?" He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Chris." He goes, I said, "What do I call you?" Because call me Big Shirley. Big Shirley. So I said, "Okay, Big Shirley." I said, "What did you do here?" He said, I was charged with manslaughter. I hit people in the head, 3 people with a hammer. So, of course, I asked Big Shirley if he could sit in the back of the car instead of the front of the car with me because I wasn't sure if he was if he was going to go off on me if I said something wrong. But
Well, Chris, I used to say about the murderers, maybe they got it off their chest.
Really, really crazy. I mean, it's just a crazy, crazy situation, And I was one of the lucky ones that had a really good job at Fort Dix. I was able to write these stories down, and never thought they would go into a book. But I was out to lunch one day with a friend, and he said, "Chris, tell me some stories." And I started to tell him, and he said, "You should write a book." And I said, "Well, I have all of these stories documented." So I started writing, and then I started to incorporate my own personal life and how this all started. Because you know what, Bob, from day to day, you never know if something like this is going to happen to you. If you open your door one day and the FBI is standing there and they arrest you for something that you have no knowledge of or you have no understanding of, and I have a happy ending with the book because my sentences were vacated. I've been home for 5.5 years and living a great life. And,
Are you retired yet, Chris Finazzo?
No, I'm not retired yet. I actually work for a construction company as a new business development.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. We build new houses. It's called AVF Development Corp in New York. My son-in-law owns the company. He does a great job with it. He said, "Dad, can you give me some help?" And I said, "Sure." So we've been able to structure the company for it to have growth. And I love what I'm doing. It's just
quite a pivot from the fashion industry and retail fashion, which is brutal.
It's brutal. Well, you know what? One of the things that this all when this all transpired, I realized that I could never go back into my old industry again because my reputation was ruined. Mm-hmm. And my reputation was so high at one point. I was very good at what I did. There was a lot of people that helped make Aeropostale a popular brand, and to make it public. There was a great team of people there. I have no animosity towards any of those people. But when you leave at the height of your career and you get chopped down right in front of your family, et cetera, it's very hard to go back in that business. But because I have really good business skills and understand the customer base, I've been able to help my son-in-law Anthony and AVF Development grow the business. And I'm very happy here. It's not what I used to do, but I have a different life now. I spend a lot more time with my grandchildren and my wife and family than I ever did before, and I'm very content with what's going on. So,
Chris Finazzo, how do people get the book, Reflections of a Town Driver?
Well, thank you very much. You can go on Amazon and buy it, Reflections of a Town Driver, Road to Redemption. We sold a bunch of copies so far. I think you'll enjoy the book. It also will be in bookstores very soon. It's a different format for that, but hopefully in the next couple of months you'll find it in your local bookstores. We're working on some deals there. And Bob, I can't thank you enough for having me on the radio.
We're going to do it again when we have a new method of release for the book other than Amazon. Reflections of a Town Driver, Road to Redemption, and we'll continue the conversation. Love it, Chris. Love you too, man. Good stuff.
I love you, Bob.
You wrote an amazing book, and I don't say it just to say it. It is one of the most interesting prison books I've ever read. And I've been there, so it's not like it's good stuff.
It's funny. I wake up one morning and I say, "Where's Bobby?" And they say, "Oh, Bobby's not here anymore." I was like, "Where the heck did Bobby go?" Like you were in 11 prisons.
They took me out at 2:30 in the morning.
I said, "Where did Bob go?" I said to one of the other guys there, "Where's Bobby?" He's not here anymore. I said, "Where did he go home?" He said, "No, they took him out last night." I'm like, "Oh God, Bob, you're crazy man. You're definitely a crazy man." But I'd love to come out and take you to lunch after one of your radio shows.
Would love it.
Maybe I'll send you a text and we could set that up. Okay?
I would absolutely love it, Chris. Thank you, man. The
Bob,
book,
thank you so much.
Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption, Chris Finazzo. Thank you, man.
So much, Bob. Thank you.
We'll be back. strong. Great good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. My Picardo Jeweler Watch says 11:09 a.m. and change. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our man John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like the veterans we've lost this year, but salute today thanks to John. Like Lance Anderson, Carbondale, Wayne O'Neill, Charleston, South Carolina, Irving King, Sweet Valley, Ford Kilgallen, Carbondale, Thomas Mangieri, Roaring Brook Township, and Edward Farrell, Wyoming. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let's continue today's battle. And how do we do that? By gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that because of our commitment to common sense, we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you. Chuck from Carbondale says, Pam Bondi ripped the Democrats a new one yesterday. Yes, she did. You go back to this issue that was just discussed at the top of the hour by Stephen Miller. Now, I'm a mayor of a city or I'm the governor of a state. Let's take Illinois, for example, city of Chicago. And someone wants to help me take criminals off the street. How fast do I say yes? This is insane. This is pure insanity. Oh, dear Lord. Hey, James Comey, you heard the ABC News script, arraigned today in Virginia. Well, he's guilty, clearly. By the way, clearly, he lied to Congress. Clearly, he leaked information illegally to the media. Repeatedly. Clearly, he conspired with two other clowns that need to be prosecuted, Clappert and Brennan, to undermine the Trump presidency. Now, is there a provable crime in there? Probably, but he also has a chance to win. I don't think it matters. He's committed the crimes. I hope he's convicted, but if he weasels out somehow, because remember, the witnesses are his pals. They're also fellow deep staters, never Trumpers, and compromised, ethically compromised people. But Comey's one of these fools that preaches ethics, ethics, ethics. I'm the most ethical man in the history of the universe, and he's a liar. So I think about Comey and disgusting people like that, swamp creatures. And I have to say, and pivot to something that's great. And you know what was great? A young guy by the name of Eddie Kaufman. We had family members on when they had a fundraiser for him on this program. And they were great. And he was optimistic. And he was a great athlete. And he fought it, but he lost that fight this week. So sad. So sad. Somebody texting in. Chris Kelly states in his piece regarding Rob Bresnahan that it's odd Rob would show up at such an event, as he also points out that the Scranton School District is in Rob's district and very large. It's the largest school district in the district. Seems like a good reason. Yes, doesn't it? I'm telling you, when you try to ascribe, and Mr. Paul, my executive director, reminded me of this. It's not a triumvirate. There's 4 truly insane people at the heart of what is really wrong with Lackawanna County politics and the Democrat Party as of this moment. And that is, I left him out. How? I don't know. Billy Gaughan, the Lackawanna County Commissioner. And he's used as a sock puppet by Pat McKenna, who used to write the most odious, lie-filled editorials and commentary in the Scranton Times. And tell you how bad he is, they fired him. As horrible as this paper is, they fired Pat McKenna. And he is now the person telling Billy Gaughan what horrendous policies and commentary he's supposed to come up with. Because by all accounts, until he crossed paths with Pat McKenna, Gaughan was an okay guy. He's turned into an insane person. So he's the 4th. And so you have Wendy Mayapolsky Wilson, who started all this at behest of Mayor Paige Cognetti. And then you got Chris Kelly, of course. 4 insane people, literally insane people. They need help. They need our compassion. And we have to recognize that everything they say is a lie. I'm telling you, if they tell you there's a car coming, don't cross the street, you probably could cross the street. Very, very silly, unserious people. Chris Kelly and all 4, you are welcome on the program at any time. Call in. You're welcome. We would love to expose you further. Mayor Cognetti, you are welcome. You've got 2 campaigns going on. You would think you'd want to be on the biggest radio station in the region, and that you wouldn't be afraid of it. Chris Kelly, you have a dramatically dwindling, and incredulous readership. They just don't believe you anymore. You could use the boost. I have no problem giving it to you, but I'm not going to treat you like you're normal, just so you know. You're not. I'm not going to allow lies that your columns are laced with. In fact, are not just laced, they're based on lies. And Wendy, God help you, you're gone. I don't know what else to say to you. And then Billy Gaughan, of course. The tax raiser, the tax reassessor, the arrogant. The arrogance is really, and what is arrogance? Arrogance is behaving as though you have much more ability and knowledge than you have. All 4 of their pictures are next to the word arrogant in a home dictionary. By the way, Brother Mike delivering for DePietros Pharmacy, he said he delivered something to Ronald Reagan of Dunmore. How great is that? And Ronald Reagan asked Mike to say hello. Well, Ronald Reagan, hello to you. Thank you. And thank you for being part of the program. All right. Something going on again with ballots and the election board in Luzerne County. And here's our friend Walter Griffith, our candidate for county controller in Luzerne County, to talk about it. Walter, how are you? And thanks for your patience.
Oh, no problem. No problem, Bob.
Tell me,
I appreciate the opportunity.
What is going on now?
Well, listen, it's amazing. At the top of the hour, the news put on your station that they had 15 people in the county that got duplicate ballots in the election, which is nothing surprising. We just had that issue last year with if you remember, Alec Rinkevich's name being spelled incorrectly.
Yep.
So we also had that problem, I think, last election. So every election seems to be another jumping or another hurdle that gets in the way. But my biggest problem, as you saw from the Citizens Voice article today, was the ability for them to not put a plain English question and a plain English statement in the mail-in ballot applications or mail-in ballots that are being sent out to the people. So the people are getting a ballot, and on the ballot it says, shall the Home Rule Charter of Luzerne County be repealed and the form of government recommended in the report of the Government Study Commission dated July 28th be adopted as authorized by the Home Rule Charter form of government. That's all they get in their ballot. They get no plain English to explain what that's actually saying, and they get no plain English statement. So the people who are voting on the ballot don't know whether that's saying they're going to repeal our government to go back to state county code like we used to be, or is it for something else? Unless they physically go out and do some research on their own, and you know how that's going to work out. They're not going to do the research. So more than likely they're going to vote yes because they think they're repealing the government and going back to another form of government because they don't like home rule or whatever reason why they would vote yes. But it's not because of the charter that they drafted. It's because of their assumption of what the question is asking. That's a real problem. And I brought it to the Bureau of Elections' attention, and I was told it's not in the law that we have to do that, and nobody on the board said we should, and they didn't ask, so we didn't. And I'm
So
going,
we'll do it wrong. We'll do it wrong because
so why would
nobody
we
can
not
make
step
us.
out of our comfort zone and try and give the electorate some information so they would be informed before they vote? Just to be informed. I don't care which way you vote. Just be informed. But no, we won't do that, right? And the best part about this whole debacle is the guy who's running against me for controller sat on the Government Study Commission as the chair. When it came time to vote, he abstained on whether he likes the charter or he doesn't like the charter. He just abstained. He didn't take a position either way. It's like, okay, so you sat on a commission for 18 months, spent $250,000 of taxpayers' money to do this charter study, and it came down to the wire where you had to vote yes or no whether this is a good charter, and you abstained. So why did we even put you on the study commission? Your whole point is to vote on whether this government's good or we need to change it. That was the whole reason we put you there. And now he wants to be the independent watchdog for the county as a controller, but he can't make a decision on something that he sat on and studied for 18 months? This is insanity.
Well,
how are we going to fix these government if the people who are in power don't care? I don't get it.
I'm gobsmacked. I really am that they've screwed up again, and I go back. In the end, it's Crockemo's fault. She's in charge of all of this. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I'm the only guy in the entire county of 200,000 people that actually raised an eyebrow to say, "Hey, something's wrong here. Why did they not put the plain English question in the envelope?" And I understand the state law won't allow you to just throw stuff in the envelope for the ballots, but they could have got a variance from the state if they needed to do that. Somebody should have thought about that before the ballots went out. We have like 20, 50, about 30,000 people that requested mail-in ballots, and nobody's getting a plain English question in their ballot. How is that fair to the person who goes to the poll and sees the question up there and the plain English statement that they could read to interpret what that question is, but the mail-in ballots people didn't get that opportunity? That's not fair to them.
Quite amazing.
It's quite amazing.
Well, Walter,
but,
you're used to fighting and battling the forces of idiocy. I ask you to keep doing it for us. We need you there.
And like I said, and the person who's running against me is the guy who could have stepped out and said something and said nothing. It's like, really? And you want to be the independent watchdog for the people as the controller? Really? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Well, Walter, make sure you keep in touch with us. We need you as our controller. We really do.
I will do that. Thanks for the opportunity to help the voter understand that question.
All right, my friend. Walter Griffith, Luzerne County Controller. We've got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll return. The Monkees. Murph tells us this date, 1966. They moved from number 18 to number 6 with their hit Last Train to Clarksville. And, of course, the vote on the impeachment inquiry into Bill Clinton. He lied under oath and all that. I don't know that it's nuanced, but I don't know how I would have voted if I was in the House at the time. But he did deserve to get impeached. He did not deserve to get removed. So, as Bill Clinton said it himself, the American people get it right most of the time. And they did there. It was egregious. It was stupid. But it was a klutzy situation brought on by a sort of a career liar and vagabond. I mean, almost everybody who voted for him knew what they were getting. And they got it. And, again, he was one of the luckiest men in history to serve during the 90s. Because demographics rule. And the economy was roaring. And that's because the most productive people were in the best positions of their lives, the baby boomers. And he didn't get in the way too much. Somebody said, Bob, enjoyed listening to your interview with Chris Finazzo. I'll try to get his book. Great show as usual. Thank you. LTS back at you. Somebody said, then is Walter saying that if we want to revert back to the old way of government, we should vote no to that question? We're going to continue exploring this. We're going to continue to explore it. Somebody says Bill Clinton didn't lie, he exaggerated. No, he lied. Trump exaggerates constantly. But Bill Clinton lied. And look at whether he cheated on his wife. Unfortunately, it entered the public domain and had an affair with an intern. It came into the public domain, and once it did, that he had literally lied under oath with all his other things going on, they had to do something, and they impeached him. But the impeachment is not a removal, and the Senate overwhelmingly said, no, we won't remove him. And he stayed in office. No big deal. That's when you look back on it. At the time, it seemed like a big deal. But we came out with the right result, which is a good thing. Chris Finazzo, Finazzo. The book is Reflections of a Town Driver, The Road to Redemption. Fascinating, but really well done because it weaves his story, which is somewhat typical in a way of a lot of white-collar people. He weaves it in with so many other people because he was driving them to their airport or their bus station or their train station and had a lot of experience with them. That was great stuff. Really is. Somebody says, Bob, I see the 3 progressive left-wing lunatic judges for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court are running ads on the liberal Channel 16 to vote yes on their retention. Chuck from Cardinal says, please remind people to vote no. These are the 3 judges, guys. They've been horrible. They violated the Constitution. They helped along, aided and abetted with these ridiculous lockdown policies in Pennsylvania. And that is Wecht, Donahue, and Doherty. Left-wing loons. So when you get to the Supreme Court on retention, you vote no against Wecht, Donahue, and Doherty. And they're using other people's names. Doherty's brother is, and I don't hold it against him, frankly, but he's the convicted federal felon, head of the Electrical Workers Union. He got his brother a job. and the electrical workers spent over $1 million, $1,250,000 for his brother to get elected to the Supreme Court last time. And Wecht is the son of Cyril Wecht, another guy that was big in Pittsburgh politics. Cyril Wecht. So they're all hacks. All three are hacks, and they all voted directly against the Constitution of the state of Pennsylvania. Music Man tells me, hey, Bob, the Monkees were posers. All music for their recordings was played by the Wrecking Crew. As Johnny Carson was saying, I did not know that. And some other music people will give us some commentary. Hey, we got to take a break. We've got to go hear from our great sponsors. We're going to come back with our third and final Veterans Tribute of the day, the weather. We got a little ditty to play for you. And then you at 570-883-0098 to call or to text. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour. This day and every day brought to you by our man John Basiliga. Let's talk about his Basiliga hospitality. Every single one of his properties is award-winning. Bar restaurants, Old Brook Inn, Springbrook Township, 307. Far Street Tavern on Far Street, the great Trist Park section of West Scranton. The Queen City Tavern, Main Drag, Oliphant. Fine dining, none better, none more beautiful. For a modern take, a Terra 519, downtown Scranton. The Stegmeyer Mansion, Downtown Wilkes-Barre. Amazing. Want to catch a movie this weekend? Scranton Art House. Favorite adult food or adult beverages and food at your seat at Scranton Art House, Lackawanna Avenue, Scranton. Edward Farrell. He was from Wyoming. He died September 30th. He was surrounded by the love of his family. He grew up in Wilkes-Barre, graduated from James M. Coughlin High School. In 1953, Ed proudly enlisted in the U.S. Navy, serving us aboard the USS Pittsburgh during the Korean War. His service would take him through the Mediterranean. During this time, he met the love of his life, Deanna Inamorati, at Sandy Beach, Harvey's Lake. They married in 1956 and would have celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary next May. Their marriage was a true partnership. Laughter, devotion, countless cherished memories. After completing his naval service, Ed returned home and worked at Falmer Trucking, North Penn Transfer, for more than 20 years. He had to retire due to an accident. But his greatest joy came not from work, but from his family. He's survived by his beloved wife, Deanna, their children, proud grandfather of 15 grandchildren, and the adoring great-grandfather to those beautiful souls. Edward Farrell, our veteran this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Basiliga Hospitality. 61 degrees outside the studio as I speak, and the Storm Tracker 16 forecast is from meteorologist Joe Snedeker. Today, morning clouds and rain, then clearing, breezy, and cooler this afternoon, 65. Tonight, clear and cold, 39. Thursday, sunny and cool, 58. Friday, sunny and cool, 63. I started this morning. I have to take Chauncey out early, so I don't know. First time I took him out was at 5 or whatever. Anyway, I started closing the windows because we love having the windows open. I don't like air conditioning. And so now I start closing the windows in anticipation of this chill, in anticipation of the fall. Hey, our guy Rob Bresnahan, speaking of, the guy who will go and talk to people that he represents. Wow, what an amazing thing. Just because Mayor Many Names and her left-wing lunatic minions will not confront issues. They won't come on this show, any of them, not Chris Kelly, not Billy Gaughan, not Wendy Wilson, not Mayor Cognetti. None of them will come on this show. Quite amazing. But he's unveiled no taxation without Operation Act to end Washington's double standard, because people forget that the IRS continues to come after you, even during the government shutdown. Good. That's a smart, very good move by Rob Bresnahan. I'm telling you, I'm so proud to have him as our congressman. I really am. And that's separate from the fact that he does common sense policies. And then you have these people, I mean, they're just lying about Medicaid cuts. Now, here's what's happening. Just so you know. There is a program that was put in place subsidizing health insurance premiums. That's one of the things the Democrats have shut the government down. The Republicans said, yeah, it's got to be looked at. It's going to be a dramatic change if we stop feeding people money. Now, here's the reason they've got to subsidize your health insurance premiums. Because Obamacare has failed tragically and completely. All this is a subsidy to the insurance companies. $400+ billion. By the way, this is separate You heard at the top of the program, Speaker of the House Johnson, he gave the exact language and the exact citation for the fact that the Democrats want to provide health insurance, Medicaid, for illegal aliens. He provided. I mean, how much more specific can you be? But the Democrats are liars. Now, what this subsidy, about $400 billion, it's to cover up the fact that Obamacare has failed utterly and completely. Your deductibles have been risen dramatically. Your premiums have risen dramatically because of Obamacare. Somebody says, I'm in and out of the car all day, so I don't know if you talked about it yet, but could you please bitch about that Pennsylvania state budget situation? Thank you. Yeah, we've got a governor. We've got a clip playing on that at 11:35. We've got a governor, a left-wing lunatic, but he's got this phony moderate gossamer covering. And he wants to spend more money than the state even envisions bringing in. And the Republicans in the state Senate, thank God, are saying, you can't do that. It's illegal. Rainy day funds are for that, a rainy day, not for you to spend all kinds of cash that we don't have. Man, I gotta tell you, have we become a state and a country where lying to the public and then spending their money irresponsibly, whether it's to buck up Obamacare, which has been a failure, abject failure, or to spend money we don't have that won't be coming in here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? What do we do here? Seriously. And people are going to vote for this? You're going to take us all down. You're going to take us all down. All right, let's go quickly. Frank from North Scranton. Hey, Frank.
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Great.
Listen, I got a thing there that it tells me why all these Democrat voters are brainwashed. And my grandson lives with us, and he sort of he gets out off the radio, off TikTok. He showed me yesterday a video of Martin Luther King standing up in front of a bunch of people and saying, Scranton, Pennsylvania, stop the nonsense. Fix. Honest to God, it's AI.
You skipped out a little bit there. What else did he say?
Well,
stop the nonsense.
He said, Scranton, Pennsylvania, stop the nonsense. And already he says, get your roads fixed.
So truth in artificial intelligence. I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
what a disaster. This
But
mayor's
with
been
all
a
of that-
disaster on so many levels. Dear God. But we've got a pickleball court.
Yeah, with all the nonsense from AOC and Omar and several other Dumbocrat, they call them.
Well, now we want to have, now our mayor wants to be part of the squad after she screwed up the city. She wants to go down there. Wow.
But with all the nonsense that they spew, plus this AI, these people are believing this crap.
Yeah.
They had a video of Jesus on a skateboard competing in the World Games.
Well, Frank, my AI is when I drive Big Lou on the streets of Scranton, and I realize our mayor is really awful and incompetent. That's my AI.
But I mean, do you imagine all the people that believe this stuff? And TikTok is the most used app on your phone. and people believe the stuff that they see on there.
Well, we're going to find out more and more how credulous people are, Frank. Thank you, my friend. We got to go to break. We got to hear from our great sponsors. We got the Bloomberg Money Minute in the middle there. My Bacardo Jewelers watch says it's 11:47:47. We'll be back. Lynn Anderson. Murph tells us this date, 1970, she released her hit, Rose Garden. So she never promised a good marriage. I don't know. That's the way I always took it. Hey, two stories. You can't even get to the stories. Things are so insane. So we've got this Virginia. I talked about it yesterday. We got this Virginia Attorney General candidate. And a couple of years ago, in reference to a then Speaker of the House, Republican Speaker of the House of the Virginia House of Delegates, he said, and by the way, I don't put much in this because it's a well-known joke. I've got Pol Pot, Stalin, or whoever he used, and the Speaker of the House. I've got 2 bullets in my gun. What do? Well, I fired 2 bullets at the Speaker of the House. I mean, not tasteful, but a joke. The problem I have with this clown, and I mean, he should be nowhere near public office, particularly the Attorney General's office in Virginia. The problem I have with it is that he then goes on to talk about the Speaker of the House's kids, how they should die. And that basically, unless they die, or if they were to be killed, maybe the Speaker and his wife would think about their policies, and they're going to be fascists anyway. That is breathtakingly disgusting. This guy, and I'm telling you what, I hope it turns a Virginia election, because this is who the Democrats are today. They're left-wing lunatics, and their lunacy comes out when they can't, they're showing who they really are. They're cowards and lunatics. We have it here. I named the 4 horsemen of the lunacy. The 4 horsemen of the lunacy. Chris Kelly, Wendy Mayapolsky Wilson, Mayor Cognetti, and Billy Gaughan. The 4 lunatics of the apocalypse. Dear Lord. Oh, and the other one is, while we have people upset and the ABC News script talking about Comey getting indicted and the possible weaponization of the justice system, this is the day after it was disclosed that the Biden DOJ was following phone calls of 13 Republican senators. You just say, you got to be kidding me. It wasn't even just Trump. Wow. Crazy stuff. Just remember a couple of things. They have to lie and be hypocrites. Number 2, everything they're saying you're doing is what they're doing. That's all you need to know about today's left-wing lunatic Democrat Party. Sad. Oh, by the way, I got sent this, and this can't go without mention. You remember the story about the place that got shut down, the daycare center that got shut down? Well, someone sent me a picture. Marty Flynn and chamber officials showing up at Learn and Grow Early Childhood Center, the one that got shut down for, I guess, abusing children. Wow. That's as bad as Cognetti's picture with the drug dealers. Well, it's actually not as bad because I don't know if they gave them money. Anyway, yeah. They're not playing with a full deck on that side. All right. We got to go. I got to go. I can't help it. The Sue Henry Show next. The Rob O'Donnell Show after that. But for now, we must gavel to a close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. And God willing, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. adjourned.